Well, my big project is my Career Development Award, which is studying racial and ethnic disparities in anticoagulation of veterans with atrial fibrillation. So, AFib is the most common heart rhythm disorder in the US, about 6 million with it now, up to 10 million in the next 20 years or so. And it continues to rise as our population ages. And so, studying how that population is treated specifically for stroke prevention is where my research is
I
focused.
actually have a K award, which addresses how do people make decisions about who should get advanced therapies for heart failure. So I'm talking about transplants and ventricular assist devices. And particularly I'm looking at how bias and how group decision making impacts those decisions. And my research today has shown that bias plays a major role, that there's a lot of subjectivity in certain assessments that impact how people make decisions. And my work has shown that being Black, compared to being white, puts you at a disadvantage for being likely to be allocated to a heart transplant, life-saving therapy. And so with this program, I was fortunate to receive one of the small research program awards to expand my work to also look at how it impacts women versus men. Um, Now, women receive less than a quarter of all advanced heart failure therapies, and minorities receive less than a third. You combine that together and you're looking at even like racial, ethnic, minority women, what do you think's happening?
Now, most of my work is focused on COVID related research questions. But the other big part, which we cannot drop, of course, and it's what we are struggling with, is keeping up the other work while answering to COVID related work. So I'm lucky that I won a K1 award from NHLBI last year. During my postdoc, I worked exploring why people with HIV have higher risk of diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And we found many gaps in the care they receive because their providers are rightly focused on controlling HIV. So now we are trying to figure out a seamless way to integrate what guidelines recommend clinicians should be doing to address cardiovascular disease risk in HIV positive populations.
I'm working with a young boy who was separated from his family in 2017, right when zero tolerance began. Right? This child has already faced a 2-year-long ordeal in being separated and now is confined in a household where he doesn't have health access, he doesn't have health care, and he was not assisted by the child welfare agency that was overseeing his care to enroll him in school. Imagine, this is a US citizen. Many of the children who were separated are not US citizens, right? So if this child had these many obstacles, right, what are the conditions of those children who were separated under zero tolerance and after, under the pandemic, right? So the work that I'm doing now, I believe, is going to shine a bright light and remind us that these children and families need ongoing care, because of the harm inflicted by the U.S. government.
Primary project right now is a NIH-funded project. I'm on a training grant where I use both clinical research and health services research to try to find a way to treat children with disorders called functional abdominal pain disorders. These are a very common thing in kids. These kids, they complain of chronic abdominal pain, but you can't attribute the pain to any specific disease or anything like that. I realized that the most efficacious treatment for functional abdominal pain disorders was cognitive behavior therapy. And I thought that was, okay, it's out there, but when you look at the availability of mental health providers, it's not easy to get into mental health. So when I refer, it can be difficult for patients to get access. So what I'm doing with my K23 award, I'm creating a patient-centered guided imagery therapy mobile app, and then I'm going to develop it, and then I'm going to test it in a clinical trial.